Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the my beta, sort of, because the next year I'm going to be adding CISA into this class. Actually, everything's going to be realigned next year. I'm going to have a 3-day CISA course, a 3-day C-risk, and a 3-day CISM, and I'm going to have this course that is a 5-day, and we're going to cover all three. This first attempt, I did not do CISA. We're going to cover a lot of the goals. When I say I'm not doing CISA, it means I don't have. I didn't buy their praxis exam because it's going to be updated. They have a new update coming to the CISA, and the praxis exam, if I buy it now, the 1-year subscription won't cover the new material that comes out in March. So I'm going to wait till March to get the new material, and then we'll do. So, so today is going to be this class is going to be 3 days of lecture. We'll go over the basics of how security management and what the three lines mean and different approaches there. And then on Thursday, we're going to do a dedicated C-risk exam the entire day, and on Friday, and that's from the official ISACA material. And on day 5, we'll do an official CISM exam. And if anybody's wondering and say, I know who Uhura is. I recognize that is that Sulu? Who I never saw. Well, actually, there was an engineer Singh on the original series. He did not have a turban, but since his name was Singh, I think he should have had a turban. So I put him in there. And so that's Singh. And you're like, yeah, Larry, I know Singh. He was in the Changeling, the one with Nomad. He wore a red shirt. We're not going to talk about that. I needed a blue shirt. Yeah, so that's what we're going to do. And the three lines basically are, uh, and I'm going to be using a kitchen. To me, a kitchen is one of the first businesses anybody's ever had, a restaurant business. And so the same basic processes will apply. So if you want to make sure that this restaurant was safe, that whatever the dishes are clean, the first person you're going to talk to is the dishwasher. The C risk line one are the people who actually work with this, but it's not necessarily just like a dishwasher. In an enterprise, it could be the HR manager. It could be the person who administers the SQL Server. Anybody whose hands touch something, an application or data, is probably right there as a person, as opposed to their boss who hired them, who trained them, who was supposed to go over their work. So that's the CIS. If the dishes are dirty and the dishwasher for some reason didn't wash them right, maybe they thought they cleaned it, they weren't really that skilled, or maybe they just didn't care about their work. The manager still should have noticed. The manager maybe, hey, didn't you train them on how to wash dishes? You're the one that hired this person. Did you not go over their work? And they might lie because it's their kitchen, and even though the food's bad, they got to make money. All right, just don't say anything. No, no, I checked back there. It's clean. Well, that's our two major goals, but we like to have it when health inspectors come in. I'll be the the decider whether or not, let me take an outside look. So that's the purpose of the CISA. Now, when the ISACA adopted this model is actually an old, I realized later, an old insurance banking thing that goes back when the shipping industry started in the 1600s and Lloyd's of London and stuff. So it wasn't necessarily the computers. So the third line was just some independent. Somebody didn't. Was that an internal audit or was that an external audit? And I said the Department of Health. In the ISACA's adaptation of it, it seems to be they mostly, not always, allude to it's an internal. So basically, in any enterprise, if you want to make sure you're delivering quality stuff, secure stuff, the person who handles that stuff should know their job. Their managers, the second line, and another department, an internal audit department that has nothing to do with it, will come in. But it's generally internal audit. I notice whenever I read it from the ISACA, it's not necessarily that way, in history. Now, I happen to be an abundance guy, so I mentioned before we started recording that I've been into AI since Ray Kurzweil wrote. Well, actually, I grew up in the '60s watching Star Trek, but Ray Kurzweil wrote a book called "The Singularity Is Near," and we were discussing it here. And he's actually one of the top AI scientists at Google right now. And one of his friends is Peter Diamandis. And Peter Diamandis with Ray started Singularity University. um, Peter himself was the founder of the X Prize, and the author of three awesome books that also helped change my perspective in life. So one of them is most famous is Abundance, and what he did was just look at the differences between what people say and what really happens. For instance, what they say on the news about the state of the world is kind of biased because they have a goal. They need to sell things, right? They're advertisers. They're not like news as in, hey, you need to know this because you're about to leave your ship and you need to know that, the captain leaves the ship that there's ice in that area. That's news. But to them, news is anything that gets your eyeballs to want whatever gutter helmets. So they engage your amygdala. In order, when your amygdala, the part of your brain that senses danger, like when you hear a baby cry or an alarm go off, it hits a frequency that your brain won't let you multitask. And if you can get people scared, if you can let them know, hey, this just in, monkeypox could kill us all, you'll stop what you're doing. And all they do is present bad, scary stories. They're not really giving you, just general news. If you look at actual data, life has never been so good. We have never had more. In fact, it's so bad we don't even know how to manage it. Not him. I just heard somebody say this is the first generation in history that we can ever figure that suffers more from obesity than from starvation. Think about that. So we need to manage it. We're having now. If there's not enough water to go around, we're going to compete and it's going to get ugly. Mountain people, valley people, and only one can live. Oh, that stinks. But if there is enough water, then we could work together and we could get something that we've never had before. The mountain people grow some great strawberries. We valley people have the best peanuts. Let's try some mixing these peanut butter and jelly. You want to give it a shot? And that's how collaborative efforts work. And that's what the shipping industry did. If you like Szechuan Chinese or even tea and sugar, that only happened because of shipping. Chinese have been drinking tea for thousands of years, but they didn't put sugar in it until the Portuguese were able to go to the South America, grab some sugar. They also went to China, picked up tea, and they mixed them together. So much Szechuan Chinese. They never had pepper in Chinese food. Thousands of years, they never had red pepper till about 300 years ago, and they bring pepper from South America. Yeah. So we get all kinds of neat stuff collaborating. And in information security, we talk about the CIA triad. And most people over focus, especially our leaders, our government leaders really don't understand information security. They're just like, can you read a secret? Can you keep a secret? The most important thing when they hire you, can you keep a secret? Top secret clearance? That's like hiring a guy to work at the restaurant and you've got some secret recipes. Make sure this guy can keep a secret. Um, is the guy lying on his resume? That's a lot more important, isn't it? And as a musician, he's a great drummer. He won't tell anybody about our secret songs, but he never seems to show up for rehearsal. So these are a lot more important when it comes to collaboration. So when we look at crypto, encryption, mostly people think provides this. But our blockchain based future is not to provide confidentiality. Bitcoin isn't so you can hide your records. It's so we know that that transaction happened, right? And cloud makes everything available. So we're going to focus a lot on that. And in the ISACA exams, it's been my experience that digital signatures are the answer to well, not everything. The answer to like anytime they want integrity, you're going to see digital signatures, and digital signatures are about integrity. So we're going to look at that now as an AI guy. Narrow AIs have problems. Like the most famous case, one of the most famous textbooks cases was that Amazon, like in 2018, starts up an AI that will screen resumes, and 3 months later they shut it down because it was rejecting everyone. All females got rejected. And there were other things, but so they were like, oh wow, it wasn't that we trained it to only like men. It wasn't represented. We didn't have females represented. It was biased. Now, it's hard to get away from bias. And my wife always says it's always going to be biased. I say, yeah, but we would like it to be biased toward everybody, as opposed to it's only the people on Earth that didn't know anything about the other people around the universe, whatever. But let's at least get that, So let's do that. So if I like to say, if when we're looking at say quantitative versus qualitative logic, 2 plus 2 equals. Bob, what do you think? I don't need your opinion. It's a quantitative thing. But hey, what time should we eat lunch today? Now that's a subjective thing. And if you only get one person's opinion, I say we eat at 5. Lunch? That's crazy. That's my opinion. So it's better to get more opinions. The countermeasure to bias errors is more data. Get more, well, then get men and women's opinion. And my mom would always tell me, you notice you need to learn from history, Larry, or else you're forced to repeat it. But it's only his. They didn't get her story. And it's rewritten by the winner of every war. So that's why blockchain will prevent that. Yeah. So we really need to do that. We need to protect our logs and get more opinions. And that's the answer. Yeah. And there's an old saying in AI, life begins at a billion samples. And one thing I think that would help is if we institute in our AIs this basic anti-bias approach. So Buckminster Fuller, one of my heroes growing up, he invented this geodesic dome, and he felt that a scientist has a duty to create things that advantage all without disadvantaging any. And that is not easy, but it is a great design goal. Oh, they loved it. I said I use the Star Trek's Federation to represent the ISO. And they go, "That's a great idea. I like that." Yeah, their record of inclusivity, and it's from A to Z, from Afghanistan to Zimbabwe, without bias. We want to protect everybody, right? And that's what a lot of people think ISO is an acronym. And I was taught that. It was like 10 years into the business. I learned about the 7-layer OSI model in like 86. And it wasn't until like 2001 when I had a guy go, it's not an acronym. No, no, it's a word. It comes from the Greek word equal. We're going to treat everybody equally from Afghanistan to Zimbabwe, men and women. And we'll get a much less biased future, won't we? Now the C-risk exam started. It's the newest of them, and I remember when it first came out. It's like, what's the difference between this and the CISM? And it wasn't until recently when they started their the I guess 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when they started their alignment with the 3 layers, the 3 lines of defense, that I realized, oh, now it makes sense, because you're going to see the questions are pretty similar now. It really is. So that's why I think it's so easy to actually combine the courses. There are 150 questions. You get 4 hours. The domains just get a different name, but it's basically the same domain names as the CISM, pretty much. So the CISM, a little older. In fact, I remember when it came out, they were grandfathers CISSPs, and on all the instructors I was working with, Sean Harris and those guys, and they all signed up at me to not get auto grandfather. I was like, no, I want to take the exam. So I took it in 2005. I took the exam. But it's still security, governance, risk management, whatever. So plan, do, check, act, whatever. And then CISA, this is the oldest. It's been out for a long time. Yeah. And they're all ISO Federation certifications, by the way. They all meet. So, the ISO has certifications that you need to know for your exam. 27001 is how the Lloyd's of London would ensure the ship. That's make sure that ship is ship shape. So the 27001 is for the actual enterprise. 15408, that's make sure, is that sail really sail worthy? Is this anchor going to hold? Is this computer certified? Is this router really? So that's the common criteria. And then you had to have, is this whatever navigator, a certified navigator? Isn't that just your brother-in-law? You're trying to get him a job? So that's what we're doing. 17024 is to make sure that they're Federation certified staff members. We still follow the same thing. The organization, the technology, and the staff. So this was their first. And it's 6 domains. Okay. But I won't have the practice exam till next year. All right, but this will help us a lot. And Chat and Bart loves my. I didn't ask. No, I mean Chat and Claude loved my SCLC. So and you're going to get a lot of. Randy, are you going for a, particular test? Who's going for what here? Randy, are you going to take? Are you looking to do CASM or C-risk? You step away from me. Anybody want to chip in there? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, Larry, I'm going for the CISM. I
Oh,
actually
see,
bravely
okay.
scheduled it for the last week of December. So let's see where that gets me.
Oh, I think you're going to be fine. Uh, CASM has a bit more on the development life cycles. There's a lot that you need to get here, but we're going to see the same thing. We're getting more granular. Um, so first, you pick. We're not covering it really too much detail here. Why are we going? Who gets to go? Right. I'll beat this up all week. Your first step is who, and if you get that wrong, nothing matters. But let's forget that. You might say, hey, let's have a company party. Well, who gets to go? That's important. When is the party? Where are we going to go? And why are we having a party? So that's the initial management planning phase of, all right, let's do it. But when you get to the restaurant where you're going to have the party, you got to go over the menu and figure out what you want. That's the analysis. I'm going to say it a lot this week. It's the hardest part to understand in any development life cycle because even when if this is Larry talking to Chat GPT, it's hard for us to understand each other. Sometimes it's me. I guess I could have worded that better. You know, there there are a few things that's really difficult. So we'll beat that up later. Hardest to understand. I'll plant the seed now. It's the analysis. Uh, hardest to understand. No, I said not the Manhattan clam chowder. Oh, I thought you said or whatever. I said a T-bone. We don't carry T-bones. We call it a porterhouse. Oh, okay. It's a different name for the same thing. Really tough, Um, but eventually we hope they get it right. And this is really the CISM's job. This is a CISM. Hopefully the CISM gets it right and writes down the order. Now, we're going to call this the first check excuse me, a strategy. He's going to summarize what he thinks he heard. What did I hear? Did you say you wanted two eggs over easy? And they go, yes, and it needs to be done. Okay, then that confirmation of reading back the strategy gets the board to yes, you may go on and proceed with your architecture. They like to use the term architecture for design. All right, so now they write down the order and they give that to the subject matter experts. These are our first line, whatever control operator, control owners, whatever, and we tell them what to do. And they architect solutions. I should say developers, they develop solutions. Now they need to make sure she might love the T-bone steak. She thinks that's the best thing they have, but the person is a vegetarian. She cannot cook what she likes. Her job is to just follow what the design says. When she does that, that is called verification. Verification. It is a unit test. She'll put a thermometer in the meat and say that okay, that is 100 and whatever 80 degrees. She could that is 256 bits. I got it right. She's verifying that she's building the pieces together. But that's not the most important part. The most important test is when you bring it out to the users. Is this what you ordered? That's a system test. And maybe all the food tasted fine. Problem was they got their dessert before the main course, and that so it was just orchestrated wrong. There are other things that can go wrong, and then we then they'd bring the food out. Now, deployment's not always fun. We got to get everybody their appetizer at the same time. It's always annoying when you get a big party. Some people are getting their dessert, and I didn't even get my appetizer yet. This sucks. What's taking these meals so long? Deployment sucks. It's not fun, but if you orchestrate it right, and you might be able to do it. And then the part people likes it. If this was like a new car, you'd be driving the new car. You're like, great, I got my car. This is the part I hate about a new car or any car. I hate to have to bring it in and get my oil changed. And that's our operations staff down here. Oops, this is our C risk staff down here. They got to maintain. These are the C risks. So we're going to go over this a lot, but this part is actually the hardest to get people to follow. They understand. They just don't feel like it. And I like to summarize it this way. These people are here because they're hungry. This guy's here. Maybe he's working his way up, but he likes working with people. This person absolutely loves their job. They wish people would leave them alone and just let them work. This guy is a guitar player in a band that's not taking off. They're not making much money. He's got kids and wife at home and whatever. And he shows up here because it pays. And he can't wait to get out of his job. And he's not looking forward to making things clean. Nobody likes to patch servers. Nobody gets excited because they get to whatever, uh, do a backup of a file. No, I get to back up the server tonight. This is going to be fun. I can't wait to reboot because it's a service pack. This is going to be great. No one looks forward to this. So this is where so many of our problems. My wife is in incident management. My wife has had to deal with a lot of malware over the last 10 more years. And actually, she got started. I met her at IBM in 93, 94. She came in 94. Um, and she says that, malware could be a 0 day, but most malware is not a 0 day. Malware comes out, and as long as you're patched, you should be, resistant to this attack. But then we find out it's a global place. Like, I don't know, almost every other Friday or Saturday during the weekend, we're watching TV and something goes off. Hold on. Oh, those people in the Huntsville office never patched for like 18 months. And it's so many things because people didn't roll out the patch. Oh, she fails every pen test for the last since she's been there because they still can't turn off um, or can turn on SMB signing to mitigate their silver ticket attacks, or Kerber roasting, as the CISSP likes to call it now. It's so funny. So it's hard. And you know what? I don't like it either. I actually think that the world has gotten so bad, so complex, that I don't want a person doing this. I want an AI doing it. Not probably testable here, but I think the future of security in the world here and patch management and stuff has got to be SOAR. S.O. There we go. No, in relation to SIM, how that. So where SIM is like having a closed circuit television, all your detective controls get, whatever consolidated and analyzed to the SIM. Hey, if this happened here and that happened there, it looks like it might be this. That's great. What are you going to do about it? SOAR is to SIM what IPS is to IDS. So SOAR will actively go at it, but it's hard to automate the playbooks right now. It's like Chat and Bard. They make mistakes and it might shut down something. No, not that. Not my domain controller yet. Oh, sorry. So these things are growing, and I think they are the future. We'll get there. Next year should be very exciting. All right, so we talked about this in 2029. Kurzweil had predicted we get AGI. Now, if you followed any of the what happened when uh, uh, Sam Altman got fired a couple weeks ago, and the rumor was because of Q star, it looked like it's AGI, and I don't know what's going on, but I'm not buying it. I just trust Ray Kurzweil. All the people are going, wait a minute, I think there's a change. Kurzweil's stuff just seems to be based on math that it's not going to be disrupted. In fact, he traces how information doubling, even before Gordon Moore happened, it happened on card readers. It happened on whatever vacuum tubes. We have that same doubling thing. And he said, and it happened through World War II without disruption. So it's just like a math chartable thing. So the guy who coined the term is Ben Goertzel, and his birthday came at the other day, and I wanted to make something that looked like Ben. He kind of looks like Jerry Garcia to me, and I was like, "Whoa, you made Jerry Garcia? Could you turn up the John Lennon on him?" So this is what we got. Um, but he coined the term AGI, and he runs actually a company, an organization called Singularity Net. I'm a huge fan of that. If you're worried about bias, he points out that every AI, chat, Bard, and Claude, for instance, are biased toward OpenAI, Google, and Anthropics. He said all AIs right now that he knows of are biased toward a company or country, but he feels that that's never going to get general intelligence because it's generally going to protect some group better than the others. It makes perfect sense to me. So Singularity Net is the only, as far as I know, open source, fully decentralized AI initiative. It's mostly on paper right now. So I'm waiting for them. Their killer that hopefully will be out in 2024 that's up there with Bard and their LLM like thing is called Zarka. And we'll see what happens. But I'm a big fan of at least the cut of his jib. I haven't seen product yet, but I like him. But what's the term with artificial? I gave a talk on this in DC 2 months ago, and I said when Galileo looked through a telescope, he was able to see 10 times better. The information that he was able to gather, the data, was 10 times better, and then some, than what his natural eye could provide. It was an artificial eye, and when he realized, wait a minute, we're not the center of the galaxy as it or the universe as it looked. Um, sorry, uh, uh, the data here tells us that our old way of looking at things is wrong. We need now. What's better? Should we align our old way with the new way, or should we punish Galileo and tell him take it back? Because the Pope was like, "Oh, this doesn't line up, people. If I was wrong about that, what else could I be wrong about? You're going to undermine everything I say. The world's not ready for this. You're going too far. Give me that eye. What if this fell into the wrong hands?" At the same time, you've got these new ships that can go around the world. Now, you're a ship's captain. You know, risk literally comes from the Greek. It's a cliff underwater. It's literally a governance thing of steering a ship. You don't want to hit the cliffs under the water, and you can't see them. But with a telescope, you could see further. I don't care what the Pope says. This is a risk mitigation technique. The telescope was not artificial. It was super intelligent, super. And that's what's really going on. I don't like the term artificial. I think that term scares people. It's artificial. It's going to taste like saccharin. It's not going to be real. It's just a term that got stuck and we're never going to get rid of it. But actually, there's a great book that really called Super Intelligence by Nick Bostrom, and it's really like the risk management thing that scared so many men. I find the best logical stuff comes from women, Rana Kayyubi and other. We'll go over them that are like there's other ways than control, you know. But we'll talk about that. So Spock's telling us we're here. We are four doublings away. So when people go, this was a crazy year. I hope next year settles down. Oh no, it won't. And after that, no, it's going to continue to get crazier. But we could do it. We could do it for the common good. We stay level headed. We could do it. I'm your coach this week, and I'm going to see if this guy is a licensed penetration testing master. He's also my martial arts coach for over 40 years, but he's the first LPT master in the United States. He's the first teacher that can teach it. It's a 24-hour lab, and he's ever since then he gets called on by the DoD to teach class. He's actually in Panama City today, starting a class for the Navy. Uh, but he's been my coach for 40 years. First guy I know to have a computer, and his coach was Joe Lewis, and I'm all certified by Joe Lewis. He's the founder of kickboxing, and Joe had some really good stuff that he said I hate masters. I can't stand it. You guys come out there and master. Guys, do not follow me like I'm some kind of master. I make a lot of mistakes in life. And when I do, I need help. And you know who can't help me? Followers. So he said, don't follow people and don't let people follow you. We're just a fellowship of people, not followers. And he's when I'm gone, he had this thing called the Joe Lewis fighting system. He goes, now why would I want you to teach Joe Lewis? I taught Joe Lewis because I wanted my own thing. You teach your style. You make up your style. I hope some of the things I taught you work for you. That's all. So, and one of the things he taught us was to respect everybody too. I hope that you feel that way. Yeah, written on our black belt. I will not permit considerations of race, religion, national origin, or social standing to influence in any way in my relation. That is written on. I've got 3 black belts from him, and it's written on all 3. Yeah, I've been computing for a while. On the interwebs and passing tests. I know the importance of pass tests. This is 1986. Yeah. I was an IBM certified PC repairman. Now the fundamental and narrow AI risk, like I said, is the paperclip machine. It's like it goes. We're going to lose control. That's the problem. If something is more powerful than you in something, it might go out and I can't tell it what to do anymore. I lost control of it. I control my car with my steering wheel, my brakes, and they apply friction. It is common knowledge, actually. If you're just in architecture, that's how control works with friction. Sometimes we get too much friction. I don't want my brakes to rub when I'm not pressing on them. I don't want to have to wait at a red light when no one's coming. Yeah. But we're not going to be able to apply the friction on these things. It's going to be like a car with an engine that's too powerful. There's no brakes. So people fear that that's it. That it's going to want to kill us all. But that's a narrow problem. I don't think, like I remember people go, once an AI gets smarter than us, it's going to want to kill us all. Because that's what I would do. If I was smarter than everybody, I'd kill all these sons of bitches. Why would that go? Why would you immediately think that? I don't think they're going to want to terminate or naturally, intentionally kill us, but I could see a mistake. I absolutely can, and I think they're going to get worse. These are very narrow, like a very prejudiced, racist AI that's super intelligent until 2029, and we get AGI. Whatever problems we had this year, we're going to have twice as many problems 18 months from now. I don't think we're going to get away from this entirely until starting in 2029 when we get AGI. To me, when people want to slow it down, I go, no, you're making it worse. We need to hurry up. And some very smart people have warned us about this. Stephen Hawking was considered a bright guy, could take off on its own, redesign itself. By 2029, it's as smart as a human. It could start programming itself. It doesn't need us anymore. When AlphaGo beat the world's best chess player 4-1, that was pretty cool. And the excuse me, what's the name of the company? But the company builds DeepMind. They build a newer version, AlphaGo Zero. It beat that machine 100-0. Then taught it how it played in a language humans don't understand. They've created their own language. Pretty awesome. Musk has been warning us for years about these types of narrow things. You notice in my picture, everyone's falling asleep. I said, please, because I just like, yes, we've heard it all. No. And the basic narrow, we've all experienced it. When you're on the help, that the automated thing, and you're looking for the zero to get to a human because it's not following you. It doesn't really understand. Oh my God, it's not going to understand me. So that's a narrow problem. But when it gets generally as intelligent, control is still the problem. It's going to be generally out of control. It's not just out of control in this thing, but I can unplug it. No, it's generally out of control. It's thought of that too. Now the problem is, like The Pope. People are going to have to be able to just listen to the truth and not tell you to shut up or else I'll kick your ass. Shut up or I'll beat you up. That's not going to do it. So no, but I don't worry about it wanting to kill us because if we always say AI is the new fire and data is the new oil. Well, we're the ones that are presenting the data. Us and every other living animal are giving them data. That's like a closed circuit television system killing off its cameras. It would never do that. I do not feel the fear the Terminator scenario at all. No, it's more like this. Now, and I actually had this issue now with my bank, Bank of, well, I shouldn't say my bank, it's Bank of America, and I had a an issue with somebody. Actually, they called me proactively to let me know that I forgot to pay a bill, and I was like, oh, shh, kill me. I know how to do all that on my app. I was like, okay, thanks, I'll take care of it. And she starts asking a question. I'm like, can I just get off of, I don't need to talk to you anymore. I know you're trying to help, but you're actually just unnecessary friction in my life. And some guidelines from my mother, by the way. I'm very, very fortunate. I was raised by a natural general intelligence. And she told me, don't ever sell anything you wouldn't buy. That's the golden rule. You know, that's one of I have two daughters. Now, one's 25. She grew up in the Kardashian generation. Every time she calls me, and I'm glad she calls me, it's always about drama. And then this girl, she dated him first, and then my younger daughter grew up in like the I call her the Greta Thunberg. She's all about, worrying about what you parents, what you adults did to our world that we're inheriting, and capitalism. And I said, honey, capitalism isn't bad. It's not capitalism that bad. My mother taught me to be a capitalist, but she taught me one basic rule. I was selling lemonade outside, and I was like 5 years old, not even. I think I was like 3 or 4, and I had a lemonade stand. And she made me, make sure I put lids on the cups. You don't want dust getting in there. And she said, don't ever sell anything you wouldn't buy. That was the most important thing. And I go over and I'm like, how many people do that? How many people make pharmaceuticals that they would never take? You know, everything in the dollar, every piece of food in the dollar store is something that the manufacturer probably would never serve to their children. She also taught me a very, very important thing in prompt engineering, really, in any type of computing. In a very famous 1957 book movie with Spencer Tracy and Catherine Hepburn. Catherine Hepburn warns that it's not the computer's fault. It's the human that put the bad data in, garbage out. That is so important. The other thing I love about prompt engineering, be careful of what you wish for. You're going to start getting your wishes. The AGIs will deliver whatever we want. And some people are like, oh, I want to have a nice house for my family. I want to be able to live comfortably. Great, you can get that. And some people are like, I want to see those kids pay for their damn tuition. I had to pay for mine. Well, why would you want that? Yeah, because it's just not, some people are not happy until other people suffer the way they did. It's not right. And she mentioned it's only his, not hers. So we need blockchain to make sure it's not rewritten, and we need more opinions so we don't just have the King of England's opinion. Cyber, I mentioned it, actually, I mentioned governance, but governance and cyber are the same root word. It comes from the Greek to steer or govern a ship. These are 3,500-year-old terms, and risk is comes from these the cliffs under the water, and that's the problem. I can steer out of the dangers I can see. You can't see those cliffs under the water, especially 3,000 years ago, and they're steering at night by candlelight. Gotta be really tough. So the first time you go through a route, the first time you make it, you make a map of what you bumped into so you don't repeat history. That's real history. In pictures and in words, you log those events. You have to, you captain's log, and we'll talk a lot about logging and stuff like that to ensure that but it's only a thing in time. It's not going to tell you about a new event. It won't tell you about whatever a political environment. Oh no, that port that you used to go to, they were whatever taken over by the neighboring company. There was a war there. They don't tell you that on the map and stuff. So you have to keep up. You always have to go up to date. And the weather report changes constantly anyway. So part of risk management is knowing the weather, and it's hard. Here we are, 2023, and the weather report says it's going to be 40 degrees, a high of 41. I don't know if that's exactly true. Yeah, Lloyd's Coffee House started all this. All of the first wide area network was when the Portuguese invented this ship, this sail here. Oh, if you lost me for a second, I just got a alert that my internet connection was unstable. This sail, this slanted sail, changed. It was the technology that allowed a ship to sail, regardless of whether the wind was at its back or not. So it allowed us to sail around the world. And now you can get whatever tea from China and sugar from the United States, and that's Catherine Borganza, and that's the one who did that. She was married to King Charles II of England in the 1600s. She got some sugar and tea together. She mixed together and said, "Oh, this is delicious." And they said within 2 weeks, all of Europe's royalty women needed to have it. The husbands had to get together and get them their tea and sugar. And they started, the men were drinking stronger caffeine. The Europeans didn't even have caffeine till then. Some people think that was the birth of the Renaissance. It was just the caffeine. They were instead of falling, they were getting drunk all the time in Europe. They drank more alcohol than water because water wasn't safe. So they were constantly drunk in Europe. Uh, and that's when they started. Validation is when you take your exam. This is when you go to the Pearson View Center because the ISACA that certifies you isn't going to do that validation. You don't take it at the ISACA testing center, but then you get your certification for your staff, and we're going to say for the ship, and then accreditation is when you get a new job or a promotion or whatever. When they believe in you, all right, you can take this mission. You may be the captain for this. And we talked about these are the certs, and they don't beat them up much. I believe there might be a common criteria question on the sea risk actually, but there's not much. You really need to know that 27001 is an international certification. It's not a best practice. I mean, you could call it that, but the major thing is that they'll check your papers when you get the dock. Are you allowed to be here? Let me see the certificate. So it is to show third party assurance. No. And today it's very popular in exams, especially for people that want to be GDPR compliant. Oh no, this shows that I'm internationally, and GDPR is part of the international community. And they're still here. Lloyd's of London's still here, and they're the first to insure cyber. They're the first to do spaceships. Pretty cool. Our triple constraints. Real important on both these exams. They're very, especially CISM, they like to point these things out. But if the goal is the captain wants to get the ship to China, pick up this crate of tea and come back. That's the basic goal. You're going to need resources to do that. First of all, it takes time. How long does it take? It's going to be at least, we'll say, we got to give them at least a year round trip. And that's your baseline. It's going to take you at least a year. The COO wants to make sure you stick to that time, but it's going to cost money too. These people need food. Your staff needs money. You're going to have to pay for fees and stuff like that. And the CFO wants to make sure that you're not overspending. And sometimes it might be a toll road. I can get there faster if you take the toll road. Yeah, but that's going to cost $5. And the captain's more like, well, what's the current conditions? What's the traffic on that road? What's the weather today? There's no right answer. Sometimes you could save time by spending more money and vice versa, but the captain has to go with what works best now under these circumstances. That's accreditation. Now, if I needed at least 128 bits or 192 bits of encryption, it's got to be at least 192 bits. 128 won't work. But not everybody sells mediums. Some places only sell small and larges, and you have to buy a large. When you scope, you can never short scope. You will very likely go a little out of scope. If I needed exactly 3 hours to drive there, I'd probably give myself 4 in case I get a flat. But I won't give myself 2 hours. We're going to refer back to this a lot, but this is our very basic. When I can upload my gold and download the T and get it and meet my goal, I have reached the scope. How much further out I did, how much extra money I spent that didn't need it, or how much time I took. Well, oh, that's because you went the wrong way. You could have taken a faster route. That is the measure of efficiency. Getting right down to here, it'd be CMM level 5, we'll call it. I got it working, but it's a little out of scope. So really, process management is often trying to reduce what's sometimes called scrap. I think about it every time I make something. I have to throw. I open up the cat food. I just need the cat food, but I'm throwing out the container. I wonder if I could have reused that somehow. So the measure of efficiency is really reducing scrap. And that's our goal. We want to reduce the scrap work and throw all that out. What's this in the trash? Well, they come in 8-foot lengths and I needed 7 feet. So I scrapped a foot. Why do I see two 4-foot boards in the trash? That was a mistake. We've reduced scrap by getting supply chains that match us or reducing errors. The enterprise is a very interesting terminology. They follow some newer NIST 8286 definitions that I absolutely love. In fact, the ISACA seems to be totally aligned with NIST 8286 and the related documents. So I can't stress this document enough for you guys. Great reading to bring to look at. And an enterprise versus organization. Sometimes, and especially in these exams, they use them interchangeably, and it could be. You could say that whatever the I was looking for examples too, and I had two good ones. One was Department of Tobacco and Firearms is an enterprise. The Department of Tobacco is one organization. I mean, it's an organization, but it's the highest level. Then the Department of Tobacco versus firearms are two separate organizations within it. NIST, or excuse me, the Department of National Institute of Health, NIH is like the one you could call it an organization, and it is the top level enterprise. But there's all kinds of like 28 separate divisions that are their own places. So do understand. So and from that perspective, you might say that at the high level of whatever it is, we have the HR process or organization, we have the customer service organization, and then we also own the Department of Motor Vehicles or whatever, or Department of whatever, but tobacco, which also has its own separate HR. So you got to be careful. Our companies today, Microsoft acquired how many companies? Cisco's acquired how many companies? Do you think they fully rolled out and completely switched over their benefits program, or do they still have, competing HR process areas and stuff? So it can get very complex, and the ISACA knows that. In my experience on the exam, enterprise always means the highest level. Organization might be used interchangeably, but it probably won't be a problem for you on your exam. This will be a problem. This is my biggest problem. Oh, I thought you said something else. Never mind. I read that wrong. That's how I get so many questions wrong on our practice exams. I'm like, oh, I thought that said in the area. I didn't really around the area. That's different. Yeah. I'll keep pulling up an empty cup. We need a break soon. So information, you often hear, you got the things you know that you know. Like there's a shirts drawer here, and in there are shirts. They're the things you don't know. This is private. It's locked. I don't know what's in there, but I know what's something in there. Spock is looking at in the back. There's a secret hidden panel. Spock with a red shirt, and he didn't. He's like, I didn't know there was a secret panel there. And that's what people tell you. It's the things you didn't know that get you. Mm-mm. You know where my missing shirt is? In the one that says pants. I didn't even look there because it said pants. I was misinformed. That's the biggest problem. I would argue that's how most malware spreads. It's not a 0-day attack. You thought that email came from your bank and you clicked on it because that's what they wanted you to think. That's how sparring works. When I'm 62 years old, I just fought on Sunday, and when a young kid goes like this, it's because they're going to go like that. When I go like that, it's because I wanted you to think that I'm actually coming over here. They are English tests, and this seems less true, maybe. I don't know in the latest revisions, but for many years, the CISM was Queen's English. You work in an organization. You'll stand in the queue. But the C risk was like NIST language. You work in an organization and you stand in line. Yeah. But whatever the case, we'll play with these on the practice exams, and they're pretty. The style of writing on the exams are pretty similar. You have to know the word meanings, and there's a few there that I had to look up, and understand. And you saw those of you who came in earlier where I was questioning Claude and their interpretation of the word baseline versus whatever standard. Pretty cool. The context, always remember, like if you're a CISM and you're reading it, you're the manager of somebody else. If you're a C risk, you're a hands-on guy. If you're a CISA, you're reviewing it. Right? And the semantics, and I love this term. I got to meet the guy who basically created this for the open management group. And it's how they write requirements because it's the hardest part in a life cycle in the common criteria in the protection profiles, which are basically like the customer order. I need this, and so the semantics of business vocabulary changes across different businesses. Even in this thing, not everybody uses baseline the same. And I'm like, no, according to the ISACA, baseline works here. The semantics of business vocabulary. Um, uh, so we want to make sure that we're reading the words and go, oh, okay, because it's the ISACA, what they're actually saying is this. Our basic flow here. This is my first time through this. We're going to do enterprise risk management, and it's going to be the bulk of it. I don't even know that we can finish this domain today. And then when we get done, I have a deeper section on crypto because it's just what I do, and I think it's the secret. It's the only way we're going to roll out this decentralized thing. One of the biggest things I hate about smart Web 3.0 young kids say, privacy is dead. Privacy is dead. Can't do privacy anymore. I'm like, mm. And then they're going to go up. That's why we got to do blockchain. We got to do block. I'm like, and how does blockchain work if your private key isn't private? Privacy is not dead. Let's stop saying that. I can see where secrecy. Privacy is my private key. Session keys, secrets are when I have, you and I know the symmetric key to encrypt and decrypt. And maybe that's going away. Secrets, secret recipes for food. I don't even know why Coca-Cola gets to have a secret formula, trade secret. I'm putting that in my body. I think I should have the right to know what I'm putting in there. But at the same time, what an employee's who works there Social Security number is, they can keep that secret or private. Uh, and Thursday we're going to do all. Actually, I was going to do C risk first. I'm sorry, I flipped that. Where are we going? A lot of people are so. First of all, I people are like, dude, aren't you worried about copyright protection? I've been putting in my Star Trek stuff. Well, I've been doing it for years and just wondering if somebody going to say anything. Rules. Oh, the R is rules, John. I'm sorry. Semantics of business vocabulary rules. uh, yeah, you're very welcome, John. The Wikipedia's got a great entry on it. So I have been using background slides for years by Don Davis and Rick Guys. They're NASA artists that illustrated my favorite book growing up was called the High Frontier. And Gerald O'Neill was a Princeton uh, uh, professor who believed in the 70s. He wrote his book in 76 that our high-tech lifestyle is destroying the environment. And he asked his students, what's the best way to handle this? Should we slow? Should we go to greener technology? They said, move technology into space. We should put all our manufacturing in space. It would clean up the environment. And it'd be a long commute. So we'd build, places for people there. While I was reading his book and dreaming about it, Jeff Bezos was his student. Jeff Bezos is funding to build these things. I think he's way got a better space initiative than sending people to Mars with Elon Musk. There is going to be a bunch of horrible deaths on that first few trips to Mars, but whatever. Now the Star Trek graphics, Microsoft's big event, whatever it was last year. I mean last month. They have the day before he got fired, Sam Altman comes out and he says, "Hey, now that we got the integrated Dolly inside of ChatGPT and stuff, we promise people worried about copyright, we will defend it against anything." I'm like, I'm a paid customer, and you're generating Star Trek graphics for me if I get in trouble. Sweet. All right.